Today we are talking about shulker loaders. In our previous video we showed you how to connect a storage system to your 3706 V3. Of course this can work for any of our pickle farms, but the 3706 V3 is our most popular right now, so we opted to go for the 3706 V3 when demonstrating it. The next question that we've been asked over and over and over, and we're glad you did, is how do I implement a shulker loader? So that's what we're going to talk about today, so let's get started. Alright, we are going to cover a few shulker loaders. We're going to tell you which one is our favorite, which one we think you should build, and which one is going to keep up with your farm. So the first one is just a simple shulker loader. If you were to search YouTube right now for shulker loader, you're probably going to see a design very similar to this. This is a very basic shulker loader, and what it is doing, it is loading items from this top hopper. The items will fill up the shulker box, and if we go to the back we see that there is a comparator looking into a solid block. Once the solid block is powered by this comparator, this redstone torch will turn off, which in turn will turn this redstone torch on. Now when this redstone torch turns on, this piston is powered. The piston will break the shulker box will go into the hopper and into your storage system. Once this turns back on, this repeater will power this block, which will then power the solid block below the dispenser, and the dispenser will place a new shulker box. Now this only works for full shulker boxes, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let me grab a shulker box just so we can demonstrate. And I'll grab, might as well grab pickles because that's what we're here for. So let's throw some pickles into this shulker box. And Colin, if you could create another shulker box that's completely full minus one pickle. So let me put a shulker box in here, so if the items were loading into the hopper, place it down. As you see, the piston broke the shulker box. It is now going to be in the chest, or in this case the hopper, because this design hopper locks. So upon the next piston push, this shulker box will drop into the hopper, and the shulker box that is currently in our hopper will then go into our sorter. So there is going to be a shulker box locked in this hopper at all times. Alright, Colin, do you have one that is partially full?
Yes I do.
Alright, let me go ahead and break this empty shulker box. He's going to place a partially full shulker box in there. And then let's just grab our pickle again. Let's throw some pickles into this top hopper and watch it work. And there you have it. The shulker box that was in the locked hopper is now in our chest. The new shulker box is in our hopper, and a empty shulker box is now inside of the loading zone. This is a great design if you're just learning about shulker boxes, but this is probably not something that you are going to use in DonutSMP or in your storage system because we have better options. You might have noticed that we have colors on the ground, and they do have a purpose, so we're going to go ahead and explain the red box for now. The red box is outlining the two shulker box loaders that have a single hopper input. Now the reason this matters is in DonutSMP, your hopper speed is 12 items per tick. Now hoppers, and we will demonstrate this later, but hoppers will be able to push 12 items each tick, but there is an 8 tick delay, meaning that 12 items can go every 400 milliseconds. And if you are building a 3706 V3 or a Duck V3 farm, you are producing roughly 20 pickles per farm or per dispenser. Now the reason that matters is a single shulker loader with a single hopper cannot keep up with one module. So you would have to build multiple modules. So if you're building this out, it would get really bulky really fast. So the next shulker loader is a tileable shulker loader. And what I mean by tileable is it fits in a single slice and they can be stacked next to each other. So for a single module farm, you would need 2 shulker loaders with a single hopper input. Now this tileable shulker loader, it is a little bit more complex as far as redstone components, but it's the same basic principle. The items will come in from the top hopper, drop into a hopper in between the 2 observers, and into our shulker box, which let's go ahead and add that now by clicking this button. And we have a shulker box. The same thing is true, so let's see, I think I have, yes, this shulker box has pickles. So let's go ahead and just throw this shulker box on top, and you will see that as the pickles flow down, they will be filling up the shulker box below, and we're going to be here for a second, so Colin, to keep an eye on that, let me know when we're about to fire. We still have a comparator. The comparator will turn on once this shulker box reaches a redstone signal of 15, which means the shulker box is completely full. Right now we have a redstone block powering the front with a redstone signal of 15 on top. Extending 1 block makes it 14. So regardless of the redstone output, whether it's a semi-partial, partial, or nearly full shulker box, this redstone signal will always read 14 until the shulker box becomes completely full. Once the shulker box is completely full, it will output 15, which will change the redstone dust on top to say 15, which the observer will detect.
And we're about to fire.
All right, and there it is. So I don't know if you saw that, but this changed to 15, triggered an observer output to the hopper. The back observer detected the state in the hopper change from being unlocked to locked, firing the sticky piston, which then pushes an observer, which breaks our shulker box. And as the observer shifts forward, it then triggers a redstone pulse into our dispenser, but the observer is in the way, so a shulker box doesn't load. So as it retracts, it sends another redstone pulse into our dropper, and the dropper will then power both the dropper and the dispenser to stick a new shulker box in the place of the old one. The setup is really simple. On the back of the chest, you place a bunch of empty shulker boxes. Those will flow into the hoppers into our dropper, and the process will continue over and over and over as long as you have shulker boxes loaded. Your system will run as long as pickles are flowing in. To build it, it's very straightforward. We are going to go ahead and show this one since it is tileable. The first block is again a piece of redstone, followed by any solid block. The output chest below, now this can be a hopper line, but I'm going to turn it into a double chest with a hopper on top. Next to the hopper is a dispenser. Oh, I always do that backwards. Faced up. I'm used to placing dispensers in the farm where I have to crouch and look up. Then there is a dropper next to your dispenser. An observer, and this is faced up, so the redstone output will go into our dropper. Another observer facing forward, so we need to place that from the back. Another observer also with the redstone output facing the back. We'll go ahead and turn this one into a double chest as well. That's not a chest. That's a chest. Sticky piston up against the double chest with 2 hoppers going into our dropper. so those shulkers can, and let me just replace the shulker box as the empty ones. They're all flowing into those newly added hoppers. So there we go. And last but not least, we have to add redstone dust and the input hoppers. Now, what I typically do is I place the shulker box first and then I place my hopper, or you would need some kind of temporary block. But as you can see, when you provide, oh, I said last but not least, but let's grab a comparator because that's pretty important. Now the problem that I see most with this design, although it is a great design, the sticky piston, when given a single pulse, will release whatever block it is holding. The only way to get this back in its place, I say the only way, there are two ways. You can break them out and add them back. However, if you have several of these tiled across, let's say 10, and the fourth or fifth one is broken, it's really difficult to get into the middle of your farm without breaking a lot of things or without purling. So it's very difficult to place the shulkers, fix the observers, and go about our day. You'll notice that I was able to load our shulker box earlier by placing a button, so a solid block on top of our inside redstone with a button on the face. And so if we watch this redstone signal closest to our observer, we can imitate the comparator being full by clicking the button, and it will replace the shulker box. Now that is perfectly great if your farm is not broken. So if you needed to replace the shulker box for whatever reason, you suspect that there are junk items keeping your shulker from outputting a redstone signal of 15, you can manually trigger the shulker loader, and all of those shulkers are going into the bottom chest. Now, the reason I say this isn't perfect or ideal is if your farm is broken, and that can happen, especially if you're teleporting in and out of your base while running it. Let me get an observer in the wrong position. So if it is in the wrong position and you tried to fix it, you are just going to replace the observer in the broken position and dispense a ton of shulker boxes in the process. The best and easiest way to fix a single broken slice is to break and replace the redstone really quickly, and that will return your shulker loader into its original position. So that was a lot to cover. This is not our recommended shulker loader, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. However, I do see a lot of these in several of our Discord members' bases, so I did want to cover it for simple troubleshooting steps. So if your shulker box loader is broken, simply break the redstone out in front of it, replace it really quickly, and that will return it into its normal state. If you have several tileables and you have a shulker box missing, or you ran your farm dry and you need to reload it, just add a solid block above your redstone dust, place a button on it, and that will allow you to manually trigger your shulker loader. So the last thing to note is if you do need to fix the farm, you do need to replace the redstone dust on the front side of your farm on the redstone block, because if you tried to do it on the back side, you'll see that both farms are activated. So, or both shulker loaders are activated. So if you have one that is broken and one that is in the correct position, and you try to fix the broken side, we fixed the broken side, but now the other side is broken. So you always want to do it on the redstone block. And the reason that is, this observer detects changes in the state of the redstone dust. So if I break this outside, watch the two redstone dusts closest to the observer. The one on the left turns into a line. The one on the right is still at a 90-degree turn, so this state never changed. If you break the one on the corner, obviously this one is gone, so there is a state change to be detected, and this one went from a 90-degree turn to a straight line. So just keep that in mind if you have this built out in your base and you're needing to troubleshoot. The red, as I stated, is a single hopper fed shulker loader. The next one, the blue box, is a double hopper shulker loader, which means that a single shulker loader can keep up with a single farm. And it can actually keep up with a little more than that. And we'll explain why again towards the end of the video when we explain some of the hopper speed. I guess now's a good time to mention, I should have mentioned it before, if you're trying to build these in your survival world, these will work, but I am mostly referring to hopper speed as it relates to DonutSMP. We actually had several requests last week on Pickle Farms and other SMP servers. Many of the SMPs that we have visited are compatible with most of our builds. However, we have run across a few that the piston push limits aren't up to par, or the hopper speed is lowered to the point where it won't work. And we actually had one where everything was kind of sped up, so things weren't timed correctly. But as far as the shulker loaders, everything will work as we're describing it. The speed in which your shulker boxes load may be different. Now, we're going to come back to the blue square box because the double hopper speed loader is going to be the one that we build out for the 3706 V3. So spoiler, this is the one that we are going to choose. But just a quick fly around, you'll see that it is very compact, very simple, and very few components. And it has a feature that none of the others have, which I can't wait to tell you about. Now let's talk about the green box. All three of these shulker loaders share something in common, and that is the shulker box is loaded. Oh, let me grab an empty shulker box. How about that? The shulker boxes are loaded into a chest, and shulker boxes take up a ton of space because they cannot be stacked. So a double wide chest can only hold 54 shulker boxes. So you need to take that into account when planning out a shulker loader for your base. Oftentimes we see a storage system like the one we built in our previous video. If you have not watched that, I would recommend watching the storage video before continuing with your shulker loader build. But a storage system of this size is capable of holding thousands and thousands of pickles, and even more with shulker boxes. However, having a non-stackable item like a shulker box loading this system, you would need a much larger storage system for your shulker boxes than you do your pickles. So that is the downside. You do have to, again, load shulker boxes into these farms. We are going to show you how to get around that, but for now, just know that these do require full shulker boxes. And that's where we move on to the second category. The second category, as you can see, we have two boxes around it because there are two independently different features on these two farms than the previous three we have already mentioned. The first being is each of these shulker loaders has 3 hopper inputs, meaning that we are loading the shulker box at triple hopper speed. And that is true for both. So that is the inner box. They are triple shulker loaders, and you might have picked up on the pattern. We have single shulker loaders, double shulker loaders, and triple shulker loaders. The outside box indicates that this does something different than storing shulker boxes. If we go to the back of the farm, and I keep saying farm because that's what I'm used to building, but if we go to the back of the shulker loaders, we'll see that we have a chest full of shulker shells and a chest full of chests. Shulker shells and chests are the crafting material for shulker boxes. So, where a double chest can only hold 54 shulker boxes, a double chest full of shulker shells can hold 64 times 54, and it takes 2 shells to create a shulker box. So, we would do 64 times 27, and that's how many shulker boxes you can store in a double chest. So that is just crazy. It only takes a single chest to create a shulker box. So what we typically end up doing is we double the size of our shulker shell storage. And you can make this as big or as small as you want, but just know that you need twice as many shulker shells as you do chests. Now, we're not going to be crafting 64 times 54 shulker boxes at this time, so we have more than enough for the demo, but that is why we have 2 separate chests, and we will show you how to connect them in a moment. So part of this is being able to craft shulker boxes on demand, and the way this works, you can ignore this section. This is just so I can trigger this manually. So when we have a full comparator signal, it's the same setup as all of the shulker loaders. A full comparator signal will trigger the item to be broken, and this one is slightly different than the one on my left because, as you can see, instead of loading the shulker box full of pickles into a chest, it is actually going to immediately dispense it, and this can go into your water stream, which will take it to your pickle storage. So this is a wonderful design that does everything in one. Loads the shulker boxes, adds a new shulker box after crafting it. So Colin, if you could come over here and pulse that note block when I ask you to, we'll just explain quickly how this works. So if you're building this in your base, you know how to troubleshoot. As stated and as demonstrated before, when this fills up with pickles, this will place a comparator output to the solid block in front of it. The solid block will then turn off this redstone torch, which will then unlock this hopper, so you have 3 hoppers that can catch this broken shulker box, so you shouldn't ever have any issues with your shulker boxes flying off into a direction and not ending up in your storage. The redstone torch is the redstone dust going into your comparator is needed because the redstone torch provides a signal strength of 15, which is telling our comparator not to turn on until the shulker box has a signal strength of 15, which means that it's full. So that is the top layer of redstone explained. Once the redstone torch turns off, this line at the bottom is powered off, which powers off this repeater. The repeater is currently holding this redstone torch in an off state, but once it turns off, Colin, go ahead and pulse it for me. You can see a lot of things just happened. The first one is the redstone torch powered on, which powered this redstone dust at the top, which triggered the piston to break the shulker box. The next thing it did was this repeater is set on a 4-tick delay. Once the 4-tick delay is up, it will dispense on the back. Let's just go ahead and break this. On the back of that solid block is our dispenser, and the dispenser is going to place a new shulker box in place of the old one. So go ahead and hit that for me, and we'll just watch it all the way through. So that is the basic concept of what we're seeing here. However, there are two things that you kind of will miss if you're overlooking it. The first one being the crafter. So the crafter is being powered not necessarily by the redstone dust, but by the solid block itself. When the solid block receives power, it powers the crafter next to it, which will then fire into our dropper. The dropper, as it receives the shulker box, is actually being powered by the solid block above it. This is called quasi-connectivity, since it is not actually powering the dropper directly. It is above and diagonal, but we're still being able to power it because the piston firing provides a block update, which then tells the dropper that yes, you are being powered. So spit your shulker box into the dispenser, and because of our 4-tick delay, our dispenser fires, now freshly being loaded by our dropper. Now that was a lot of information, and if you don't care about any of it, I'm a nerd when it comes to redstone, and I love to understand why it works, but I also want you to understand why it works so you can troubleshoot if you have this in your base. The actual loader looks like this. That was just a way for us to demonstrate, because you can't simply power, because it will break the timing, because the button stays on an extended period of time. So you'd be able to do that, I suppose, but that is that's why we did that. So the disadvantage of this system, unlike the previous demonstration, we are able to break and reload our shulker box without having to do any kind of crazy wiring, simply adding a button. Because this is a redstone torch, you can't simply use an observer, because an observer can't turn it off. You can't use a button because it stays on too long. So to manually dispense and update, what I tend to do is just break the shulker box and replace it with a new one. There's not really a better way to do it. So if you have a ton of these, and because of the nature of our playing on a server, if something breaks, you have to go in and manually fix it. And again, that's just the nature of playing on a server. The next one is very similar to the previous, with a little bit more complicating redstone. It still has a crafter. It still has a triple loader. This one, however, can be activated by a button, and that's one of the reasons we like this design. Both do the exact same thing, just in slightly different ways. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. We have a comparator, which is powering the block in front of it, which is then powering this redstone dust. Now this redstone dust does need to be by itself, and if you have it next to anything else, you're probably going to run into issues. But since we are off by itself, it doesn't really matter. I know most people say it has to be a dot. It really doesn't, unless it's next to another component. But the solid block, once it's powered, will power the redstone dust. So Colin, if you could load this with a partial shulker box for me. Just like the other farm, the comparator is only going to turn on after it receives a redstone signal strength of 15, which in this case is coming from the comparator down at the bottom. The comparator at the top will start supplying power immediately once there is anything in the shulker box. So as you can see, a partial box that is putting off a signal strength of 14 is not going to do anything on this shulker box loader. The signal strength of 14 is going to only, so Colin, go ahead and throw some pickles in one of those barrels. The signal strength of 14 is only going to trigger the comparator down here once the shulker box is full. So we'll wait for Colin to put those pickles in, and there you go. We now have a signal strength of 1, which just means there were some leftover pickles. Now, the troubleshooting. Unlike the previous loader, this loader is powering the piston, the crafter, the dropper, and the dispenser all at the same time. We're doing that with an observer. So Colin, go ahead and press that button. And if you watch it very closely, you'll see that the observer is activated when your sticky piston moves in front of the observer's face. So if we hop down, we can see the face of the observer. Go ahead and click that button again. And the power from the dropper is then powering all the components around it. So this is timed extremely well. This is one of my favorite loaders. Now, the problem I see typically on this design is the slime block, or if you would rather, the honey block. A lot of people say, well, I don't understand what that's doing, and they leave it off, or they try to use a normal piston since after, go ahead and activate it again, Colin. When you activate it, it seemingly does nothing, but it's doing something very important. If I were to build my shulker loader up in the air where it's elevated and not on the ground, we can simulate that by breaking out these bottom blocks. Colin, press that button. It actually pulls the whole redstone component with it. So these solid blocks are holding the honey block in place, and it is keeping your observer from going wonky on you. Yes, wonky is a technical term. So let's go ahead and we'll just put a stone block back instead. Now, regardless of whether you use slime or honey, as I already said, what is happening is when the honey block is connected to the ground, it is not able to pull all the blocks on the ground. Now, if I were to remove some of the blocks in front and maybe some of the blocks in the back, go ahead, Colin. If there is nothing in the floor to stop it, you are going to break your loader. And you do not want to do that because then you have to rebuild it and troubleshoot to figure out why it's not working. So for this reason, for novice redstoners, we don't recommend this one because you can break it rather easily. But if you are going to build this, or if you've already built it and experienced this issue in your base, the honey block or slime block needs to be connected to the floor, which has 12, really any block behind it. So go ahead and press that button again. So the other thing I want you to notice is the observer is only firing when the piston extends. You may be thinking, well, okay, well, if that block is not moving, I'll just remove it. But watch what happens when Colin presses the button this time. It double pulses because it is detecting the update from the extended piston head. Click the button, and it detects on the retraction. Minecraft is a little quirky when it comes to redstone, and observers are no exception. What is happening is the sticky piston is attaching to the honey block, and the game is expecting a block update in the space in front of the observer. So when the piston retracts and the honey block does not come with it, the observer is waiting for the block update that never happens. So we get a single pulse. It's a pretty clever way of using a sticky piston and two comparators to send a signal all the way around to provide a single pulse to our dropper. Now, like the one on my left, this one does the same thing. Takes chests and it takes shulker shells. All right, now jumping back to the double hopper speed loader. The reason we are recommending this shulker loader because the first one is too large for a single hopper. The second one is too finicky for a tileable shulker loader, and these are too complex and too hard to troubleshoot if you are not extremely familiar with redstone. This one has very, very few components, and as you can see here, it actually does not have any kind of hopper collection system for the shulker boxes. So this will drop directly into your water stream. This is a design that C3DG Minecraft and myself came up with, and this is what we use in our base. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at this system. The back of the loader, where the observer is looking, is a piece of redstone dust, and this serves a dual purpose. The first one being, when a shulker box is completely full, there's a comparator that is reading the output of the shulker box through a solid block. So this does have to be a solid block. It cannot be glass. The comparator only turns on because of this redstone block when the shulker box is at a level strength of 15. It powers this block behind it, which powers the redstone above it. The redstone dust will then trigger the observer update, which will power the piston, and the piston will break the shulker box and it will drop straight down. Now we are going to demonstrate this build fully for the farm that we built in our previous video, so don't worry if it doesn't all make sense just yet. But once the observer fires that piston, the redstone next to it is also powered at the same time, and our observer on the side of the farm will fire twice. Now that may sound like a bad thing, but it does serve as a little bit of protection. So we have a repeater. It can be set on a 2-tick, a 3-tick, or a 4-tick. Cannot be set on a 1-tick. So 2, 3, or 4. The dispenser will place a new shulker box on the hopper. So, unlike the other loaders where the shulker box is face up because it is being dispensed on a block beneath, we are dispensing directly to the block next to it, in this case a hopper. Now, the dispenser can only fire a shulker box if there is an empty space. So that is some of the protection built in. Every time a shulker box is dropped, a new shulker box is attempted twice. Now, another benefit of this design, if you suspect that your shulker box has junk items in it, meaning that pickles can no longer go into it because maybe you broke a piece of glass or you dropped some bone meal and it's taking up a slot that will never fill fully, the shulker box will never reach a signal strength of 15, which is why the majority of shulker loaders break. If you suspect that is the case, come back to the back, right-click your redstone dust, and that will manually dispense your shulker box. And it doesn't matter whether it's in this plus or the dot, because we're not powering anything around it. We are simply using the state of the redstone dust to fire the piston. In addition to the redstone dust in the back, simply interacting with the repeater allows you to dispense manually. So let's go ahead and get building so we can explain how there is additional protection for this design and how to do the water stream. So we are going to head over to our builds from the previous video, and we're going to tear some things down. So I'm not going to make you watch us do this, but just know that I'm going to break everything from the we'll say the end of the iron bars over to our water stream, and we'll be back in a moment. All right, so we did some pre-work for you. We removed our bubble column, and we just went ahead and left this up here for now because we are going to be storing our shulker boxes into our storage system. If you have built along with our tutorial and this is what your base looks like, then follow along. If you have built a 3706 V3 but you have not implemented a storage system, or your storage system looks different than this one, refer back to our Storage System Plus video where we build out this entire farm including the storage system leading up to this point. Now in the previous tutorial we built a bubble column out in front. This time, however, we are going to make a few changes starting with the first water stream, and let's see how far this flows by itself. Okay, that's where it stops. Let's see how far this one flows by itself, and let's see how far this one goes by itself. Okay, so we've got some stuff to work with. What we're going to do is we're going to place a fence gate, we'll say even with our pistons. And we are going to, the other two sides of the farm are far enough, so we are going to place a fence gate in our middle and a fence gate on our far right water stream. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of the fence gates here for now. I'm going to tidy this up a little bit, so your water stream should now look like this. Colin is going to place a water bucket in our middle to extend the current. Since we use packed ice, it would have been okay, but I don't like to leave things to chance. He is then going to place a water bucket in the corner, which will then direct the pickles towards this outside water stream. So we're going to do the fence gate trick one more time by starting right in front of the turn and placing another bucket of water. And then we're going to break out this corner block, which if you watched our water stream basics, you'll know that if the streams are equidistant or within a block, you don't need to do anything extra to get your pickles to turn because we have naturally turned it with the connecting water. We're going to place another piece of ice, one block out, and put a fence gate on it. So do you have that ice? And then we are going to place a piece of soul sand, and we're going to build a column up 6 high. So we only need to go 6 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to do that on all 4 corners. Once you have your 6th block, we are going to extend the side that's closest to the farm up by 1, and we're going to build out just a couple blocks from there. We're going to extend out the sides, and we're going to create our bubble column. So Colin's going to jump down. We're not going to use kelp in this video. You should refer back to previous videos where we talk about bubble columns. If you need help with that, let us know. Join our Discord. We'd be happy to help. I'm just putting this here just to keep the water from going everywhere for now. All right, now that we have our bubble column, the fence gate will come into play later, but for now, what you need to know is that we built 3 blocks off of our bubble column, and we are going to find the block on the floor directly in front. So I'm going to drop down here, and I'm going to count up 2 blocks, and I'm going to place a block right there to mark my starting point. This is going to be 2 blocks wide, so making sure that I'm 1 block in front of my fence gate and 2 blocks over. Now this can be built directly on the ground. However, I am going to build it up 1 block so you can see what makes up the entirety of the shulker loader. So from our 2 blocks, we're going to go out 15 in total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and count all the way to 15. Now coming back to the beginning next to our bubble column, Colin is going to take the wall closest to the pickle farm, and I'm going to take the wall furthest from the pickle farm, and he's going to build up 6 blocks, which will be even with our bubble column, and I'm going to build up 4 blocks. Now this will just make it easier in the end. You can make this lower, you can make this taller. Just know that the back wall needs to be 2 blocks lower than the front wall. And we're going to carry this all the way to the end of our 15 blocks. Alright, now the way this works is we are going to build our shulker loaders into a channel that the shulker boxes will drop off into and flow towards our storage system. So from the corner of our back wall, the 4 block tall wall, I am going to grab a few items. The first one I need is an observer, dispenser, some redstone dust, and a piston. We will also need a solid block. I'll go ahead and use iron blocks because that's what I originally demoed at the beginning. And then a comparator, and I'll grab the rest as we need it. On the corner, I am going to face an observer away from the farm. So the face of it will be looking away. The redstone output will be looking towards it. And of course, this will be different based on where you put it in your base. But on the front of the observer, we're going to place a dispenser looking towards you, or looking towards your storage system. This is going to be where the shulker box is dispensed, and we need to place a solid block right behind there for our comparator to read. I'm going to take some building blocks. I'm going to use glass so we can see the full components of the farm in action. I'm going to build out 2 blocks under the observer and our solid block. I'm going to grab a comparator, go back to my solid block, facing it away, so it will read the redstone signal strength of my shulker box. As it fills up, the redstone strength will go up, and the comparator will output that into a solid block directly behind. Oh, I need a repeater, so let me grab that now. The repeater is going to face the observer, and it needs to be set on 2 ticks or higher. It does not matter the tick, it just cannot be on a 1 tick, or it'll be too fast. So 2 ticks or higher, and a redstone dust behind that, and a redstone dust on top of the solid block that the comparator is looking into. I want this separated because, as I demonstrated earlier, I can use this to fire the piston manually. So I'm going to cut that by placing a solid block on top. It does need to be a solid block. If you tried to use glass, redstone can pass through transparent blocks. So make sure that you do use a solid block. And this will allow me to fire the piston manually. Now, if you are a Bedrock player and you're not used to being able to click the redstone and change the state, you cannot do this on a Bedrock world. However, if you are playing this in DonutSMP, your redstone will continue to look like this plus shape or this cross shape, but a Bedrock player in DonutSMP, if they click it, it will change the state. Just know that the image won't change. It will still look like a plus sign, but it will still work for you in DonutSMP. This is almost all of our redstone circuit complete. We need one final item, which is a redstone block, and we're going to place it right into the comparator off to the side like this. We are going to jump on top with another observer, crouch, look into the redstone dust on your solid block, and then once you have your observer, place another solid block just like that. That is your redstone circuit complete. We're going to place a piston facing down. So we're going to jump into our little channel and place the piston on that upper solid block. And that is the entirety of the shulker loader. To load shulkers, the first thing you're going to need is, in fact, a shulker box. And we can go ahead and load that in now. Grab yourself some hoppers. And Colin is going to grab a barrel because I'm going to use a barrel for this, and I'll explain why in a second. Place your shulker box where it's going to live from now on, which is right off of that dispenser. Place a hopper in front of the shulker box, facing your farm, opposite of your comparator, and the only face of the shulker box left, we're going to put another hopper. On the front side facing your farm, we're going to face a hopper down, and that's just to bring it level with our wall, because we have to place a barrel on the hopper next to the piston. Once there is a barrel, I am going to face a hopper into the barrel. The reason I am opting to use a barrel is because it is a full block. I cannot jump on it. If this were a chest is not a full block, and I can jump on the side of it. And I want to eliminate any possibility of a shulker box clipping through this hopper. We have over 30 of these in our farm, which we will show you later. I've never had a shulker box clip through it, and we use chests, but just to be safe, I'm recommending you use a barrel. So Colin, if you could place a barrel back down. And that is how we will load the pickles into our shulker box. To load the shulker box, we need to place a hopper on top of our dispenser. And I'm going to place a chest on top of that. And I am going to switch to a chest. You can actually use a barrel here if you make a surplus of barrels. But this one does not matter because it sits above our shulker loader. And that is your first shulker loader complete. We're going to repeat this 4 more times for a total of 5 shulker loaders. So I'm going to grab my observer again, and I'm going to start on the block right next to the redstone block. Same as before on the wall, place an observer, go to the side, place a dispenser, solid block, and I'm just going to build this a little quicker since you can refer back to the previous for a step-by-step, but 2 glass blocks, comparator, repeater, redstone dust, solid block, redstone dust, breaking the connection, setting that on a 2-tick, observer, solid block, redstone block, piston, and just to do a little once over, make sure everything matches. The shulker loader circuit is complete. So let's go ahead and put our shulker box down there with some hoppers. Colin will put the barrel on, and I'll put the hopper on the dispenser, and I'll put a chest on top of that. And that is the second one complete. If I didn't mention it before, or if I did, I'll say it again. This is one of the easiest shulker loaders you can ever build, and it works great. So I'm just going to continue to build this out until I have 5 shulker loaders for my 12 module farm. And we'll talk about how we came to the number 5 here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and finish building this out. If you've gotten the hang of this by now, go ahead and skip forward. The rest of this build is identical. I'll go ahead and continue to show it just in case you're wanting to follow along and you're wanting to pause. But again, these are built exactly the same after this point. Another thing I like to do when I'm building multiple like this, I will actually build 2 at once, because in survival I can't do a block pick like that. So I'll put my observer down, move over 3, put my observer down, and then do all my builds at the same time. You can do it however you want. That's just how I do it in survival. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. The steps that I show you is to avoid temporary blocks. If you find a better method, or a method that makes more sense to you, go ahead and do it that way. But what I would caution is, don't forget to set these repeaters on a 2-tick, because we actually ran our farm the first time, and this is our design, but we ran the farm the first time and completely forgot to set that on a 2-tick, and we wasted a lot of storage space because we were not dispensing fast enough, or we were dispensing too slow, and it was quite a mess. So that is the one thing that we did forget to do. So don't make the same mistake that we did. And we are just about done with the 5th one. So I'm just going to make sure that everything looks correct. And if you have a shulker box, never mind, I got it. All right. Oh, we forgot our chests for our shulker boxes. There we go. Now, once you have determined how many shulker loaders you need, the backside may be as simple as what I'm about to show you. It could be too long for what I'm about to show you and require some repeaters. But what you're going to do next is, on the backside of your farm, you're going to, or your shulker loader, there it is again, farm. Backside of your shulker loader, you're going to extend out behind your redstone, dust going into your repeater, and you're just going to run a line of blocks all the way across, just like that. You're going to take redstone dust and you're going to run it all the way across like this. And then you're going to cut off the back redstone dust from the one that we're going to manipulate to fire the pistons. And you might have heard it in the background, but that piston is firing whenever I change its state. So we don't want this to connect to anything, so we can continue to do that. In the beginning of the video, I said that there is some additional protection that is built into this particular shulker loader. Whenever any of these shulker loaders fire, meaning that the comparator detects a full shulker box, it will then send a signal to this solid block, and it will then power the repeater, which will then cause the dispenser to place a new shulker box. In a server, sometimes we have issues with the redstone lagging out, or if a region goes under maintenance while you're farming. A lot of shulker loaders take a lot of extra work on getting the shulker boxes back in place, and so we are trying to mitigate that as much as possible. A dispenser can only dispense if there is not a shulker box already in its place. So if I put a shulker box on the, let's do it on the outside one so we can see it better. So if I put a shulker box right here and I fire this dispenser, again, you can do that by changing the repeater. You can hear the dispenser firing, but there is no wasted shulker boxes because there's already one in its place. However, if the shulker box was not there and we click that repeater, the shulker box, whoop, apparently I didn't have any in there, let's add a couple. the Shulker Box will be dispensed, just like that. And this is why I said it's very important to make sure that your repeater is always 2 ticks or higher, because if you leave it on 1, it'll break, and we use the repeater to trigger that dispenser. So what is this redstone line on the back doing? Well, anytime any of your Shulker loaders fire, it will power the redstone line in the back, and it will attempt to send a signal to the observer to replace all of your Shulker boxes. So if you had a Shulker box break off, the region went under maintenance, or you got disconnected, or just some quirky region area where the redstone is messing up, you don't have to go in and replace every single Shulker box. Now, that does not account for junk items that fill up your Shulker box, like if you are mining and some deep slate gets inside of it. I'll explain that later, but there is a way to fix that quickly by right-clicking on that redstone dust, and that will dislodge your Shulker box, and your Shulker loader will continue as normal. So that is the additional protection that we have built into this, and we have experienced that firsthand, so we know that it works. All right, let's move to the next step. All right, now it's time to direct our Shulker boxes into our storage system via this tunnel. We are going to use a 2-wide water stream, and it's extremely easy to do. The first thing we do is come to the backside and we build up a wall so that the outside Shulker box does not have a chance to escape, and we're just going to build that all the way even with our platform that our bubble column is connected to. We are going to go inside of our little tunnel, and we're going to place 2 buckets of water, 1 in each corner, just like this. Now, water can flow a maximum distance of 8 blocks. At the 9th block, Colin, if you could grab some packed ice and replace that with packed ice, we are going to build a continuous water stream. If you have not watched our Water Stream Basics tutorial, we do cover this in depth along with all the methods that we are going to be implementing, so we're not going to spend too much time on it, but we are going to make a continuous water stream by placing a top slab on the block that is level with our water, and we're going to do that on both sides. We're going to place a fence gate on the block directly behind and up 1 from our top slabs, and we're going to make sure that those fence gates are open. We're going to grab our water bucket and we're going to place water on top of our slabs. Be careful when you're doing this step that you don't waterlog your slabs, because if you're crouching or you're looking at your slabs and you place it, you're going to actually waterlog the slab, and that is not what we want. We do want that water to sit on top. Oh. Top slab, not bottom slab on top. There we go. Make sure our water is on top, and you'll do a bucket on either side. And if we come out to the front, we will see that our water is one continuous path. So anywhere that the Shulker boxes drop, the Shulker boxes will land in flowing water somewhere. They will either go under the top slab, over the top slab, and exit the tunnel on this side. The next thing we're going to do is grab some more packed ice, and on the outside of our 15 block, Colin is going to place 2 pieces of packed ice, and I'm going to build a wall, just a couple blocks high on either side. Actually, I'm going to go 3 blocks because I only want a single block gap for the Shulker boxes to exit. So just like on the first side, I'm going to build this up all the way until I am even with the top of my wall. You can see that this Shulker box is really close to the edge, and we don't want that to fly out. We want it to drop down into the water. From here, we are going to place 2 blocks. These do not have to be packed ice. It can be any block, because we are going to build up a 2-block wall all the way around that. Just like that. And then Colin is going to place one more packed ice right at the edge. And while he does that, I'm going to place my barriers down on the interior packed ice and open them. I'm going to place a barrier down on this packed ice, and again, we're using fence gates, and if you use fence gates, you got to open it. And place a bucket in this corner. So let's just review. Shulker Box pops off into our water stream, exits the tunnel, turns, and starts heading this way. And if you've watched any of our past videos, you can probably guess what we're about to do. We are going to build a bubble column. So Colin is going to place a piece of soul sand right in front of that packed ice, and we're going to build this column all the way level with our previous storage system. If you have not watched our video on building the 3706 V3 fully with storage, I believe it's called 3706 V3 Storage System Plus. If you have not watched that, you might want to pause the video and familiarize yourself with what we've got going on over here. If you are coming from that video and you already have this built, then by breaking off what we did earlier, you should have something that looks kind of like this. Whether you broke off more or less, we're about to count out from where the water ends. Water can travel a maximum distance of 8 blocks, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we are going to place a chest on that 8th block, just like that. We're going to extend our iron bars, so hopefully if you broke them out, you still have them. We're going to extend that all the way until we are even with or past our chest. All right, now that we have our chest in place, we are going to make a little horseshoe. This is not the only way to do this. This is just the easiest to incorporate the system that we already have in place without taking up too much extra space. We're going to build a little horseshoe starting with our chest. We're going to build out 3 blocks, 1, 2, and 3, and we are going to build over until we are even with the front of our bubble column. So it should look something like this. Now the Shulker Box full of pickles will exit towards the horseshoe and wrap around towards the chest. So we're going to build up 1 block here, 1 block here, and I'm going to knock Colin off of this platform, and we're going to build up all the way around, making a barrier for our water all the way up until we get 1 block in front of our chest, because we need our pickles, our Shulker Box full of pickles to turn, and they wouldn't be able to do that with a solid block. So 1 block in front of our chest, you're going to place let's grab some packed ice just to be safe. And I can't believe I made you do that. If you're following along, this needs to be packed ice too. Grab your fence gates, place a fence gate on both pieces of packed ice, and open them. Make sure that your wall is all the way around, so we're going to do the same thing on the interior side, right up to our fence gate and leading up to our iron bars. We have 1 gap here, and we are going to fill that with an iron bar. And then just like that, we're going to waterlog our chest. And if we counted right, our water should go up all the way to the storage system. So our shulker boxes will come out of our bubble column, wrap around this little U-bend, item align with the chest, and go into our storage system. Now we are going to make this a bubble column by adding water. And if you've watched any of our past videos, you'll know how to do that. but either use ice, water buckets, or kelp, however you want to do it, to make yourself a bubble column, and the water will flow around the horseshoe and into the chest where the items will align for our storage system. Don't forget to cap off your bubble column so those shulker boxes do not go flying. And if you're worried about items falling into your stream, you can always cap this off all the way. This isn't required. Sometimes I do it mainly because I like the way it looks. And that is how we're going to get these shulker boxes from your tunnel into your storage system. Alrighty, Shulker Loader is no good without pickles to load in them. So what we're going to do now is do some more water streams to get the pickles into our shulker boxes. Before we can do that, we need to patch up the roof of our Shulker Loader platform. So we're going to go through and we're going to place a block. These do not have to be packed ice, they can be any block. Just make sure that every gap in between our hoppers. Oops, did you break one? Oh goodness, we're doing the same thing. You fix that. Alright, so we've got a solid platform from our bubble column all the way across each hopper. Now this next bit, it can look a little confusing because we are going to be using the chests to contain some of the water. But the first thing that we're going to do is right on the outside of our fence gate. Now again, we are 3 blocks over, so on the 4th block we're going to place down any building block and put a chest on top. We are going to build around from our bubble column and just encase it just like that. And since there's a chest in between, I'm just going to extend it all the way to that chest, but you can use an iron bar here, but I think a block will look nicer. Now, this was originally going into our storage system, so this was just a temporary bubble column, but underneath your fence gate, we do want this to be packed ice because the pickles are going to flow across it, and make sure your fence gate is open. From the chest, as always, we are going to count back 8 blocks with our barrier for our water stream. So this is 1, 2, 3, in between our chests, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side, adding iron bars all the way until we reach the block next to our fence gate, which actually has to also be an iron bar, or the pickles wouldn't be able to pass by. We're going to waterlog our chest, and the water should stop right at the edge of our iron bars. We're going to shift this over 1 block, so add an iron bar here. And if you've watched our previous videos, you'll know that we need a block here with an iron bar on top. And then Colin will carry that one out 8. I will carry this one out 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It might be easier if you look into the ground instead of at the bar because of its small hitbox. Alright, now this last leg is 8 blocks long, but you can see we are 1 block short of the last hopper. Now's a good time to talk about how we came to 5 shulker loaders for our 12 module 3706 V3. The 3706 V3 produces 5 pickles per bone meal, and the dispenser consumes 80 bones per minute. So with a little bit of math, we'll know that each module produces about 20 pickles a second. Now a hopper in DonutSMP can pull 12 items at once. So this is not going to be true for all SMP servers, and this is definitely not true on your own survival world unless you have a modded server or you have self-hosted a server and increase the hopper speed. A normal hopper pulls 1 item every 8 redstone ticks, or every 4 game ticks. So what that means is every 4/10 of a second, a hopper can pull 12 items. Every 4/10 of a second, we can do some math and we can calculate how many pickles we expect to cross over our shulker loaders. Now, instead of just talking about the math, we're going to do a little demonstration. We're about to get nerdy with redstone, so if this doesn't interest you, just skip forward a little bit. But what you need to know is a single double hopper speed shulker loader, which is what we have built, is more than capable of keeping up with 2 farms. 2 farms because each farm produces approximately 8 pickles for each hopper that is capable of pulling 12 items in DonutSMP. Now, if you wanted to build 30 modules and you didn't want to do the math exactly, you can just divide your modules in 2 and you'll know that you need 15 shulker loaders. We have only done 5 for our 12 farms, and that's because every 4/10 of a second, a hopper can pull items. So I'm going to go ahead and have you frozen it, Colin?
Yes, I have.
All right. So Colin has frozen the game tick. So when I add items to the hopper, they will not advance until he advances the game tick. So Colin, go ahead and advance it 8 game ticks. And you'll see that it pulled 12 items from the hopper, and they are in our chest. Colin, go ahead and advance it 8 more game ticks. And that's another 12 items. So every 8 game ticks, which is 4 redstone ticks, we are pulling 12 items from the hopper. Now, that's 4/10 of a second, and we know each farm produces about 8 pickles every 4/10 of a second. Yeah, you can go ahead and unfreeze it, Colin. We're done with that little demo. So with a little bit of math, we know how many shulker boxes we need. You just take each hopper with the 12 items and you multiply and divide the 8 pickles that each module can produce. So that's how we came up with 5 double hopper speed shulker loaders. Now, if you're not playing in DonutSMP or you are playing in another SMP, you need to know what the hopper speed is for these calculations to work. If you need help with it, open a ticket in our Discord. We'd be happy to help you. But for now, 4 shulker loaders are going to keep up with 12 modules exactly. That is in an ideal world where every 4/10 of a second, our farm produces 8 pickles. Now, this farm will produce a little more, it will produce a little less. So if we have exact numbers, we always add 1 shulker loader. And that being said, the last shulker loader is kind of a catch-all. So this last 2 hoppers is only going to catch a little bit of overflow if one of the other shulker loaders runs out of shulker boxes, or if the farm produces too many to keep up in a short period of time. So this last bit I'm going to replace with packed ice. And I'm going to place 2 blocks just like that because, do you have a water bucket, Colin?
Yes, I do.
Alright, go ahead and add that there. The water is going to end 1 block shy, so the items will be aligned, they'll hit the packed ice, and they will rest here on the corner until this hopper is able to pull it in, if this hopper is full. Chances are, if the pickles get to these 2 hoppers, they'll be pulled in right away, because again, this farm should only need 4 shulker loaders. So that was getting nerdy with CD3 Daddy. If that type of stuff is something that you're interested in, we are going to do a redstone series eventually. Let us know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. But as of right now, our farm is ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some shulker boxes. Colin, if you could do the same. And we're just going to put shulker boxes in each of our chests. Now be sure that you don't accidentally put them in the barrels, because the barrels are where the pickles go. So that's another reason we switch to chests, just to differentiate them, but just know that it is the one sticking up. And we're just going to put some I keep doing that. Just put shulker boxes in each chest, and one more, and we are good to go. Now the current shulker loader, because we did some demonstrations, did drop the shulker boxes. If you remember how to do it, go ahead and do it now. If not, go right click all of your redstone dust behind your observers. Nope, that's not how you do it. Apparently I don't even remember how to do it. That actually dispenses them. I mean ejects them. To dispense them, you right click on the repeaters. Oh goodness. And I like keeping them on 2, as long as it's above 1. And we should have shulker boxes on all of our shulker loaders, and we do. So Colin, go ahead and turn the farm on. And we will watch those pickles fill up in a hurry. Now I'm not going to make you wait until they are... Oh! Put a top on your bubble column. My bad. There we go. So now these shulker boxes will fill up in a hurry, but I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. So in a few seconds I'll cut back to it and I'll show you the shulker loader in action. Alright, we had our first shulker box kick off, and so they should start popping off from here. This is one of the things I did want to show you. If you do this method, the shulker boxes will slow down when they reach this double stack bit of water, but the shulker box will always float up and flow to your storage system, so you don't have to worry about that. And that's all there is to the farm. Let's go check on it. And we'll watch the shulker box go up our bubble column, wrap around our horseshoe, item align, and go into our storage system. And we've had quite a few shulker boxes already, so let's just take a look. Oh, there they come in. So very cool. Alright, go ahead and turn the farm off, Colin. Alright, now that we have a shulker loader, a storage system, you may be asking yourself, man, do I really have to load each one of these chests with shulker boxes? And the answer is a resounding no. We do not want you to do that. And the shulker boxes are still popping off because the pickles are in the hoppers. So what you can do, what I would recommend, is place a hopper in the back of each of your chests, just like this. And go to the very last shulker loader, place a hopper into the hopper, and run a hopper line all the way to the first shulker loader, which is going to use the most shulker boxes, so we want that one first. And then we are going to turn and face the back of the farm. What we can do from here is place a ton of chests, but that's not what I'm going to show you. I am going to show you how to craft shulker boxes. Now, if you recall from the very beginning of this tutorial, we talked about 3 different types of farms: the single hopper shulker loaders, the double hopper shulker loaders, the triple hopper shulker loaders, and the 2 types that are the shulker loaders that have an integrated shulker box crafter, and those that take shulker boxes. And ours is one that takes shulker boxes. However, the reason we don't use the triple wide, you could use this if you are planning on using a crafter and never using the shulker box side of it. But if you are going to use orders in DonutSMP, The orders will fill, your pickles will sell, and you will be left with an inventory full of shulker boxes. And if you're continually crafting them, you will have more shulker boxes than you know what to do with, and I would rather just reuse them. So what I do first is I add some chests up here, anywhere on this hopper line. It doesn't matter. You can create a ladder to it. You can add additional boxes on top of it. This is entirely up to you on how many chests you want to store shulker boxes. What I'm going to show you is how to craft them if you want to do both. So run your hopper line to the back of your shulker loader, place another hopper into there, and then we're going to build a little platform. I say little, we're going to build it 8 wide and 6 long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you do want the center, one of the center 2 blocks on the hopper. And we're going to go back 6 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Colin's going to fill that in for me. On this back hopper, we are going to go up 1 more, and then we are going to go in. In front of your hopper, we are going to grab some redstone components. Let me clear my inventory. I am going to grab a crafter, redstone dust, redstone torch, repeater, comparator. I'm going to grab my iron blocks again, and a hopper and a chest. I think that's it. If we need more, we'll grab it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to place a crafter facing into the hopper. The crafter is obviously what's going to craft our shulker boxes. Now the crafter, the way we're going to set it up, will have a continuous redstone clock on it, and we don't want to craft shulker boxes if the hopper closest to it has shulker boxes in it, because what will happen is it will continue to craft shulker boxes and they will fly out onto the floor if your farm is not currently running. So we're going to jump to the side of your hopper that has the 4 blocks. So if it's going the other way, you just reverse this, but 4 blocks is to my left. I'm going to place a comparator with the comparator side looking at the hopper and the output side facing away. You're going to place 3 solid blocks and place a solid block in the middle like this. Grab some redstone dust and place it on all 3 blocks. You're going to grab another comparator and you're going to place it on the outside, comparing up against the middle block, just like that. And what we are going to compare is a hopper going into the side of our crafter. This is going to be where we place either our shulker shells or our chest, and the comparator will look to see if the hopper is empty, and I'll explain that in a moment. Place a solid block in front of your comparator with a redstone torch on the side. From your redstone torch, we're going to place a repeater into the last solid block with the redstone on top. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to place a hopper. Instead of using a solid block, we're going to compare the hopper directly, and then we're going to place another solid block with a redstone torch on it. We're going to place a repeater facing towards our crafter, and this is all you need for the automatic shutoff so you don't overflow your shulker box hopper line. After you have the redstone component set up, and let me just show you everything that we have so far. So 3 comparators, 2 repeaters, 2 redstone torches, and some redstone dust. On the back of your crafter, place another solid block with a repeater into the solid block and a repeater facing away from the solid block. place a redstone dust right next to your solid block coming into the back of this repeater. Place a comparator facing the repeater into the solid block with a piece of redstone dust connecting the return repeater into your comparator. So this is your simple comparator clock right here. This needs to be in subtract mode, and then we'll put a redstone torch behind it to give it power. Or if you made a surplus of redstone blocks, you could do that as well. I kind of like the way that looks better, but you can do either or. And that is your crafting system. Actually, we have 2 more pieces to add right there and right there. There we go. That is your crafting system for your shulker boxes. To load it up, pick a hopper either side. It doesn't matter which. We're going to place a single chest here, and we're going to do a double chest here. Now, if you're building this out, don't worry. A chest is not a full block, so it is not going to break that redstone circuit. So you are perfectly fine there. The crafting recipe for a shulker box is 2 shulker shells and 1 chest. So let's go ahead and put that in our crafter right now. I always do the center line, and I'm going to grab some chests, put it in the middle. Colin, could you grab some shulker shells and put it in this double chest, please? So when he puts the shulker shells in the double chest, it will flow into the open slots. You could go ahead and preload it if you want, but just to show you how it works, the shulker shells will go on the top and the bottom, and as you can see from the image to the right, that is the recipe for a shulker box. Fill up your single chest with more chests, and our shulker box crafter is automatically going to turn on because we have an item in this hopper, an item in this hopper, and no shulker boxes here. And you can actually see every time a shulker box passes through that we're actually turning off the clock for a brief moment, and that's okay. This is so we don't have to worry about turning it on and off. As soon as any one of these hoppers runs out of material, so let me go ahead and just break this for now. It's going to make a mess. Whoop, I missed. I'm going to break it for now. There we go. Once the crafting materials, obviously we're still in the chest, but there's nothing in a hopper. The redstone torch turns back on, which turns our clock off, which keeps us from over crafting. And you don't want to overcraft, because if your recipe is completely depleted, let me break out this side too so I don't mess it up. There we go. If your crafting recipe is completely depleted and you have more items in one chest than the other, then your recipe is going to break and you're going to have to manually fix it. So we do want to compare both sides, and as you can see, as soon as I put the hoppers back in, the recipe started. So you are always going to have 64 chests and 64 shulker shells in each slot, and they'll be ready to craft once you get more material. Now I'm going to let this fast forward until this is filled up, but let's go ahead and just take a peek. Oh yeah, we are completely full already on some of these. So it is a very fast crafting system, and it is not going to take long at all to fill up. And just like that, our crafting system is turned off. Not because we ran out of material, but because we have too many shulkers in this hopper. You do want to have a shutoff, because if you don't, the crafter will continue to craft and those shulker boxes will just go flying. So make sure you do have a shutoff here, and you don't have to do any kind of comparator signal. As soon as 3 shulker boxes enter the hopper, the system will shut off. And that is how you store 32 double chests worth of Shulker boxes into 2 or 3 chests total. So it's a big space saver. If you wanted to expand this, you could do that easily by adding more chests. It's okay that that's hopper locked. If this is running, it will the items will flow freely, so you don't have to worry about that. You can build the Shulker shell and chest storage as big or as small as you want, but the amount of space that you save by crafting shulkers is going to be well worth it. And that is it for this tutorial. We are going to show off our base in just a moment, so let us transition there. Alright, now we're not going to show you the full thing because as you can see it's pretty big, but we are going to run our farm for you for just a moment. This is our crafting system, or the Shulker Loader system, and we have actually opted to build it into the ground, and we were lazy when we built this. We did not use the infinite water stream. We just cascaded it down every 7 blocks. So Colin is turning it on right now, just so you can get an idea of what it looks like in action. Alright, the farm has been running for a few seconds now. So these Shulker boxes, as you can see, they're already dispensing. And so we have quite a few Shulker loaders. And I'm not sure if we can see it from, yeah, we can see it from here. We should be able to start seeing the Shulker boxes flying up our bubble column into our storage system. So we have a huge farm, a huge Shulker loader system, but the storage does not have to be super big because we are storing 27 stacks in Shulker boxes, which will fill up 54 slots in our double chests. So a huge space saver. Don't know why I'm having trouble saying that tonight. And that's it. So we are using this design, and we really like it. And thank you so much again for watching another one of our tutorial videos. This is one of the most asked for videos, so we really hope you enjoyed it. We put a lot of time and effort into it. Do us a favor, like and subscribe, leave a comment, ring that bell so you know when we bring you more content. Let us know the content that you want to see. We are more than happy to adjust our wishes of what we would like to record so we can do something that would benefit you. That's all for us for today. I'm CD3 Daddy.
And I'm C3DG Minecraft.
And we'll catch you on the next episode.